Silly girl.
Welcome back to another episode of the Spill a Girl podcast. I am your host, Celia Bogarelli, and today we are talking about the Summer House reunion that dropped on Tuesday, and specifically, we are going to address the question, was Ciara too harsh? Because the internet is a little split right now, and honestly, I think this reunion was way more layered than we expected. Also, before we get into the drama, can we all collectively celebrate that Bravo wrapped up most of the spoiler storylines that we were exposed to in part one? Thank goodness. Thank you, Bravo Andy, okay? Because I was nervous that this was going to be one of those reunions where every single explosive moment that got dragged out through teaser clips were for the whole 3 weeks. And we basically saw a preview of everything that was going to be talked about. But seeing that it was wrapped up in episode 1 to give us basically a full breath of fresh air in episode 2 and 3, like, I'm so excited. It genuinely feels like we have 2 solid episodes left with actual tension, conversation that needs to be had, and probably at least 3 more moments where someone storms off. At least we can hope for that. But it's given everything that I think we waited for. Now I want to get to the conversation with Ciara because it was honestly very fascinating to watch in real time. I'm not going to lie, in the beginning, I was definitely always team Ciara. I think she's a queen. I think she's, quite frankly, way too good to even be associated with this drama. However, I always have said I needed to see and get more receipts to understand Amanda's take and to fully commit to choose a side. I definitely always feel that Ciara has her right in that friendship. Obviously, there's broken trust, and obviously, there's probably not going to be amends. But also, too, Amanda's single, and if she wanted to take that opportunity and she really felt something with West, she has every right to do that. However, now that I see that Ciara and West went over summer into the fall, definitely changes the picture. And I think what made people uncomfortable is that Amanda came in very uncontrolled, whereas Ciara came in very controlled, very direct, very honest, and you can tell she's trying to emotionally detach herself. Obviously, she is still very upset, which she has every right. She's very heated. She wasn't like yelling and she wasn't spiraling, but she was acting very emotionally. So we obviously know there's still some hurt there. And seeing how Amanda reacted and seeing how she, responded to, the spirals and the emotional betrayal, I was really quite surprised how defensive she was and much she genuinely kind of like disregarded her friendship with Ciara in support of her newfound closeness with Wes, even though he was always there for her. I'm sorry, but if you're married, you're just not touching your friends that way. So in that sense, I think it hit even harder for me. I don't know. Usually at reunions, people equate like calmness with maturity and emotion with irrationality. But I think viewers weren't expecting how cold some of Amanda's delivery felt, especially towards Ciara. It was a 10 out of 10. And I think this is where I actually think the audience starts to divide, because obviously most folks are going to be team Ciara. There's going to be half of the audience that feels like, good for Amanda. She's standing up for herself. She's setting boundaries and she's refusing to let someone make decisions for her, like maybe the stereotype or narrative was with her relationship with Kyle. And I think the other half is like, okay, but at some point, you can't always be the victim. You can't always be emotionally that short-sighted with yourself. So both sides, I will say, still have somewhat of a point to make, I'm sure. But yeah, Jesse definitely is that classic Bravo boy energy where he thinks if he smiles and he, interacts with the cast, he's very careful with his wording. Same with Carl. I think it's very strategic. I think there are genuine friendships and they want to balance that, but we'll see what happens. Wes is just lost. Right now, I don't think anyone has patience for Wes. I don't even know if Amanda has patience for Wes. It did kind of feel like she was learning things that she didn't know before, but he has this like golden retriever energy. So, with that said, I think he's kind of like the Montauk guy that is just, people are just naturally softened towards him. He has a very great way of communicating. And I think that he gets way more grace than Ciara did. So I don't genuinely ever see Bravo women get as much grace as the men. And they're kind of seen as emotional and dramatic, where the men can be calm and cold and they're just forgiven way too easily. For the newbies, I mean, they're new. I don't even think I need to spend time on them. We'll even see if they come back next year. I like them all. I just don't know if their storylines really fit with the OGs, but maybe we'll get a whole new cast. But you could tell Ciara looked genuinely exhausted by the dynamic. You could tell they all did. Like, not all of them seemed angry. They just seemed exhausted. And that's what made me sad. There was a huge difference. I don't think anyone in this group is malicious. I just think they've reached the point where the warmth inside of them has just disappeared. And, we can just try to interpret it the best way that we can until the next episode. But I think we're watching a genuine reunion with genuine friends that's not scripted. And, it's quite sad to see when you have a fractured friendship group. I don't know. That's like really all I have. I think at this point, like my biggest confusement is the breakdown in timeline. And I think that they just need to become clean and their timeline needs to make more sense, because I genuinely don't understand how you would have a joint statement before you explore an intimate relationship, but you do you, boo. So I think there are definitely going to be a lot of nitpicking at that timeline. I really hope that they do. I'm completely caught off guard by some of it. I'm sure everyone watching is, but Bravo, this is our Super Bowl, okay? So respect yourself, pull your girls together, prepare for what's coming. This reunion conversation is interesting, but it's going to get so much more intense. And them doing the 3-part episode and giving us a break in between is just going to allow us to debrief the facts and hopefully get some closure. But we all know reality TV loves tone debates because the tone this season is so subjective. And I just have to say, this cast is still so good together. Like a lot of times, like you see reunions and you're like, oh, I'm over this cast. No, Summer House still works because the cast still feels very interconnected and emotionally invested in each other. And I think that's why I love Summer House so much. There is a magic to this show. They do not feel like coworkers showing up to film scenes. It genuinely feels like you're watching friends with years of layered now resentment and history and hookups and alliances and betrayals and now emotional baggage, which is why I think this reunion for this franchise this season hits differently. And honestly, I think this season worked because it finally felt less overproduced. I think they had to try a lot harder in previous seasons. So, yeah, I mean, in life, people are messy. People can do wrong. You can contradict yourselves. You can be emotionally immature or mature. But literally, that's how Bravo works. So it's definitely going to be really interesting. I love that this, show is not entirely media trained and is somewhat messy. And Andy seemed genuinely engaged this reunion. You could tell he is, like he knows there's enough real tension to carry multiple episodes. And so for him and his writers, I'm sure they're like trying to take their time to make sure that the spoilers got addressed early because they want us to feel like we are in the room for deeper conversations instead of spending 2 more entire episodes pretending we don't already know the major reveal from TikTok, clips for the past few weeks. So I'm sure Bravo has been struggling lately and they're doing everything that they can to give us the best reunion. I think the audience is so amped. I know podcast, TikTok, Dumois, cast interviews, Reddit, like everything is going off. I'm sure page 6 in New York is like going crazy, but yeah, I'm in for it. So we'll just keep pacing. We're going to keep watching. We're going to find out what happens. And for all of them, I hope they find some closure, whatever that means to move forward. And I'm really interested. Do we think that Summer House cast is coming back? Or do we think that it is RIP and we're getting an entirely new cast? Do you think Ciara walks away from this reunion looking bad at all? Do you think Amanda and her have any sort of opportunity in the future? And do we think that Wes gets kicked off of Summer House? Those are the questions I have. Until next time, I hope you have a great weekend and we will talk to you soon.